So you're a facilitator. Facilitator training is if you're going to be a representative of a group, such as new patient education class, a support group. We're starting patient navigators throughout the state. If you're going to be a representative of the Lupus Foundation, basically we want you to go through facilitator training, right? So really, the mission of the Lupus Foundation. We should all really know the mission statement of the Lupus Foundation, and you could read it right off when you start a group, knowing what we are about. Who are we? So the Lupus Foundation of America is dedicated to improving the quality of life for all people affected by lupus through programs of research, education, and advocacy. Advocacy has been so big for us the last couple of years. And if you guys have the privilege to go to Washington, D.C., to really see what we're doing on a big scale, how we're helping the whole U.S. is really something that is great to be a part of. Suzanne had mentioned, I think you said over 430 patients, family members are going to be charging the hill coming up this year, and that's really something to be a part of. And so the mission of our organization is really to help push along the foundation, get the information out there. Some policies that we have several policies, and I want to point out that in your facilitator training manual is everything spelt out, but I wanted to pinpoint a couple things that are really important to drive home, just that we're aware of and that we've discussed together. So one of those things is the Lupus Foundation Greater Ohio chapter has a zero threat policy. So no bullying, no threat. If this is happening, we need to know. Everyone should feel safe in their groups, right? And that's why it's always so important to have a co-facilitator with you when you're having a group, that you have someone to help back you up in group. And so if anyone's ever feeling threatened, I want you to know we have a zero threat policy, okay? That goes with the staff members and volunteers that come participate with us. A support group is a safe haven for all of our constituents. Social media presence. We really encourage everyone to be on social media. I think I ended new patient education class with the power of social media. We have great apps and ways to stay connected. One thing I want to be mindful of is keeping your social media page professional. You know, not sharing strong political views and being something that can be offensive to other people. We want to be mindful of things. So I recently just found out that there's a Facebook jail. I did not know there was a Facebook jail. No, I did not find myself in Facebook jail. My uncle says, I'm out, I'm free, I'm out of Facebook jail. And I'm like, what's Facebook jail? So, I mean, you know, if you're being put into Facebook jail, probably means we need to check out your social media page or what you're commenting on. And so we just want to be sure that we remain respectful and polite. You know, we all have fun things that are going on in our life, but if you're going to a bachelorette party and have pictures of you doing shots and running around and stuff like that, you might want to think about what you're putting out there for people to see. And I guess a suggestion would be to have a professional page and a personal page if you want to have those types of things out there. But things come back to haunt you, so I'll let you know. Be careful what you post out there, okay? So just being mindful of the social media presence. Just a few policies I wanted to share with everyone. So the facilitator training manual, again, I've been out of the office, so I'm not sure all what's in there, but there should be contracts for everyone to be signing. When you sign those contracts and get them back to the office, when you sign them, it really means that you've read the manual fully and completely, and you understand all the policies and procedures in there. So when you are signing those contracts, please be sure that you're going through your binders. Go through the new patient education classes if you're facilitating. Go through what it means to be a facilitator, and make sure that you're signing those contracts and know what it means when you're signing it. And we're going to go over some of those main points to drive home. So what is a support group, right? A support group is a self-help group. This is a group where we're coming together and learning from one another. It's a safe place. We want this to be a place where you can gather to feel uplifted and energized. Typically, when you come to a support group, you might be feeling a little down in the dumps. Hopefully, you're leaving there energetic and feeling a little uplifted, that someone's heard you and that you're feeling supported. Or maybe some new suggestions for you to try, talking with your physicians, trying new ways of improving energy and things of that nature. So it's a safe place to share. It's also a place to have private, confidential conversations. So what happens in group should stay in group. We shouldn't be meeting up for coffee and talking about it with Betty Boop about what just happened in support group. We're keeping it professional, confidential inside that group. So we want to be sure that we're upholding those standards. It's a self-help group, it's a safe place, and it's confidential. So what a support group is not. It's not a professional counseling group. And we might have some counselors in the group, and that's great if you have a certificate or a degree that is in that nature. But typically, it's patients helping other people, helping other patients. It's healthcare providers helping other people. It's not a professional counseling, psychiatric help, right? This is a self-help group. So we want to be very clear that we're not giving medical advice out. We're not replacing family or friends, right? You still need healthy relationships outside of this group. It's also not for everyone. Some patients, I think new patient education is a great segue into finding support group attendees. So new patient education, I like to think Suzanne's group is pretty large because they come to my class for new patient education, and then I say, you know what meets here every fourth Thursday of the month is a great support group, you should check it out. And keep in mind, when I'm on the road, I mention everyone's support groups that are out there to check them out. But when they come to us, you know, maybe they're looking just for the education part. They don't want to care and share yet. But once they come to the new patient education, they might recognize that they need more help. Because why? You learn the most from other lupus patients than you will from anyone else. Right? So it's not for everyone. A support group is not for everyone. So maybe they're leaning more towards symposiums. Those 14 symposiums that we're having throughout the state, they want more of a formal setting. They don't want to share their feelings just yet. Our goal is to help them open up and know us a little bit more, and hopefully they'll start joining. A support group is not a cure. It doesn't make lupus go away, but it helps you build skills and make new friends. So the goal is to ensure and accepting a safe, caring environment, expressing concerns, and developing appropriate coping skills. So what are these coping skills? It's not a single act. It's not going to happen at one group. So you want to be consistently coming to a group. And I think what naturally happens is you're building a network, an extension of your family and your friends that's happening. Maybe you come to one group and it's just not for you. The one thing we do want to know about is if the group is depressing, you're not feeling energized, maybe the facilitator is a bit bombarded and not being able to manage everything quite well and isn't able to get the energy going and get things positive moving, we want to know about it because we'll stop by and help get the group into the right feel. It should be empowering. It should be energetic. And it doesn't just happen over time. This is going to be a process of learning how to be a great facilitator. So it's a collection of many skills and behavior, and it's a learning process for everyone, for the facilitator and the group. And you'll find your own little niche within your group. Some groups meet at Donato's Pizza. Some meet at Panera. Some meet at a library. You know, where you make your group is up to you. And creating that sense of home where you guys are going to be able to meet and talk privately together. Using different skills and behaviors at different times. So being able to manage all the different personalities that we have. These are learned behaviors. And like I said, it's a learning process. So it takes a little bit of time to develop that group. It's not just going to happen overnight. So one thing we want to do is decrease the isolation in a support group. If there's one person that's monopolizing the time, maybe they're just a big sharer and they're always talking, we want to be sure that the whole group is talking. So we want to decrease any isolation. If someone is feeling a little timid, it doesn't mean necessarily to point them out, but maybe checking in with them if they want to share anything. And that might be the person that you stop at the end of group and just say, hey, you know, I'm here. If you ever want to connect, here's my email address, and maybe try to decrease that isolation that a patient's feeling and privately get in touch with them. Help people to share their issues about what's happening with them, their healthcare system, their healthcare team. Help people change related living with lupus, what are the things that we can improve with our what we're doing? You know, so we're sharing those articles, the expert series, bringing those things up. What are things that we can improve upon? So we're providing a positive social support system where peer support and networks can develop. We're building a network. So the value of a support group in general, I'm just going to read this. The value of a support group is anything positive that a person may get from participating in support group that increases knowledge about lupus and helps him or her live better with lupus. Because that's the goal. We're learning to live well with a chronic illness. We're looking how to find remission. So what are those values, right? We're sharing. We're understanding one another. We're trying to decrease isolation, decrease helplessness, any panic or fears that they might have. We want to try to dissolve those. We want to find a renewed sense of well-being. How do we live well? Where do we turn to? How do we get help? Exchange of information that helps the group members and the process change. You know, what's working for someone? Is this going to work for them? Are they able to adapt and conform to what someone else is trying? Peer support and friendship. Most important is finding the courage of being creative in a new norm. So once a diagnosis happens, a lot of the times patients feel a sense of relief that they finally know what's happening to them, but now there's a sense of fear of what's next to come, right? Sometimes that happens for patients, and hopefully they're turning to a group that understands what they're going through. So finding that new norm, that new life is what we're trying to create in a support group. And we want to develop appropriate and caring relationships. So having empathy. It doesn't mean being, you know, we need compassion. We don't feel sorry or bad for someone. We want to be empathetic. We want to be understanding and listening. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Education, information, and education. We're building awareness about particular symptoms and how lupus is affecting them, awareness about how to take care of themselves or how a caregiver can help take care of the patient. So we're developing these new skills. Awareness and tension of stress that can come with lupus, the coping strategies. So we talked a little bit about the coping strategies in new patient education class. Maybe one support group could be a whole discussion on coping with lupus. So these are the sources of information that we want to spearhead our support groups on: sharing, peer support, friendship, information, and education. So really one big thing I want to point out is when you're starting your support group or any sort of gathering, we always want to start with a disclaimer, right? The disclaimer of what the Lupus Foundation, and this is what we've typed out for you guys. You could read this off when you start group, welcoming everyone, and just simply read it at the start of each group. The LFA is the leading source of information in the world. We are the resource for information, education, and support while striving for the causes and cure of lupus. We do not offer diagnosis or treatment plans. Your physician is the best person that can help you in making those types of decisions. This group is a safe and positive place for sharing information and experiences. So it's a great benchmark to just set the ground right there. Let them know what's going to happen in this group, that this is a safe place to care and share, and it's a positive, uplifting one. So we definitely want to open each group with that. So where to draw the line? There can be some slippery slopes, right? So medications, some people might have a bad experience. They might be allergic to the medication themselves. They can't take a medication. Something's really working for someone and they find it a miracle, but it's not going to work for someone else. And so these are places where we want to draw the line. Treatment options, another just because it's working for one person doesn't mean it's working for everyone. Just because one person has figured out healthy eating and diet and exercise has put their body into remission doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. So we want to be careful of these slippery slopes or where to draw the line. Physician bashing, sometimes patients have had a bad experience. We're not going to condone that type of conversation and activity. If it's something that does come up, this is where we want to draw the line. We want to let them vent, and we want to move on and give them suggestions on how to move past it. Is the relationship fixable? Is it not fixable? So this is a thin line of where to draw the line. And a good way to kind of get past these hurdles of those slippery slopes is put it in the parking lot. So if a conversation is becoming too dominating into the group, how do you kind of get around that? What do? We want to draw attention to the conversation, and we're going to say, you know what, this topic, we're going to put this in the parking lot because it's not leading to anything productive. We could circle back to it, or we can get more help and more information on this topic. So that is a way to kind of get past those tricky situations. But just know, these three topics are a hot topic that might come up, but it can be a slippery slope for a negative group. Oh, so role play. I actually need the help. I think Amber's in for it. I was telling Jackie and Adrian that I was going to need some help, and Suzanne. We wanted to create some scenarios of what sometimes happens in a support group. And Suzanne being the most senior vetted, super awesome, fabulous support group facilitator, we wanted her to spearhead how to handle tricky situations, right? So if we could role play of how to handle. So the first scenario is we have one member insisting that all medications should be stopped and only using supplement medications to manage her lupus. And she's adamant that all medications out there, and she's kind of dominating the group. And so, you know what, I'll just do it with you right now. So Suzanne would have opened the group with her disclaimer, and then a lupus patient just sits down and is just kind of spearheading her way in and giving her opinion on what works for her, right? And so I'm not going to take my Plaquenil. I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to take herbal supplements because I know my body. My body can't handle all these toxic medications, and natural is the only way to go, and I don't think you should take your Plaquenil either. Let me tell you, it has so many side effects. I have to go to the eye doctor and get them checked all the time. It nearly caused me to go blind, and it's just not a medication. You shouldn't take it. Are you taking Plaquenil? You shouldn't take it. You just shouldn't. It is an awful medication. And Suzanne would jump in as the senior support group leader.
I would say, young lady, how long have you been diagnosed?
I've been diagnosed for 2 years, and I know everything. I know my body.
So you're a lupus expert.
I'm a lupus expert.
And you are here why?
To tell you all that these medications are not good and you should be on supplements.
Okay. And do you have a doctor's degree?
Yeah, WebMD. I've been Google searching everything online. I have read every journal, medical journal about Plaquenil, and I know what it does. They don't tell you everything that it does. I've read everything.
Well, and you're feeling better?
I feel great, but, I still have a lot of joint pain and a rash that just won't go away. But I know that this is going to be the cure for all. It just makes me feel awful when I take it, so I have to take these supplements.
Well, I'm glad that you think this works for you, okay? Because I don't think I'm going to be able to convince you of anything otherwise. But for those of you in the room, your doctor is still the best person to give you advice on your medication. Because each one of you are like a snowflake. They're very different. All right? And each one of you may need different care. And since this young lady doesn't have a doctor's degree, nor does she know your history, she is not the best person to give you advice for you. What works for her may not work for you. And I'm hopeful that your journey continues to go so well. I really am. And we thank you for your opinion. Amber, you're next. I'm going to hear your story, and I would move on.
Moving on. So validating someone's feelings, right? Just because this person feels this way, maybe she is feeling fabulous on the medication, and she believes it. And there's no way you're going to change her mind because this is what this person believes in. And that's okay. If it's working for her, then fine. We're validating her feelings, but we're not allowing her to monopolize the time. And so Suzanne's right. We move to the next person. We give someone else the time to talk. And if you feel it's necessary, if you've moved past that point, maybe grabbing that person and saying, I appreciate you sharing your views with everyone, but we are helping one another. We're not a doctor here. I'm only helping facilitate this group. We don't have medical degrees to really pinpoint diagnosis treatments. So thank you for sharing the empathy and validating the feelings. So how do we handle side conversations, right? Maybe you have a huge group like Suzanne, and they've kind of buddied up, and the patient that has the floor for the few seconds of saying how they're doing, what's going on in their life, and we have side chatter that's happening that kind of is drawing our attention here. How do we handle side conversations?
That is actually my group. I go to that group as a patient.
Okay.
So I have said, shh. I've asked, could you be quiet? You're being rude. After the shh and the look didn't work. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm sorry, do you mind? Dorothy has the floor right now. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so hitting it straight on. Right. Hitting it straight on and just letting them know, you know, Miss Tisa came and is sharing her story right now. And we're going to let her have her time to speak up and be heard. We want to be mindful of everyone, allowing them to have the conversations. And you guys are more than welcome to meet up after group and grab a cup of coffee if that's where you want to go. So hitting it straight on. If it's a behavior that just isn't acceptable, it's rude, we just want to be direct about it and say, right now we're giving the floor to Tisa, but you're welcome to have conversations after group. So a group member had a bad experience with their physician. The doctor is adjusting medications and will be following up again in 6 months. You know, this is kind of going along the lines of doctor bashing and people's personal opinions about the physician that they've seen. Maybe they're new to the lupus world and they're not sure what's being said. So we know that we want to teach them to journal and document those symptoms, but someone's coming in and just saying, this doctor is horrible. Dr. So-and-so, you wouldn't believe the things that he's got me going through. He's got me going to lab works. I have so many special appointments. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He has all these big fancy medical degrees on the wall, but he does not help me. I don't understand him half the time when he's talking. He has such a thick accent. He's a horrible physician. And you know what? I just don't think anyone should go to him. Are you seeing Dr. So-and-so? Oh, well, good thing, because he's awful. Don't ever go see this doctor. And so our support group facilitator would try to see what's actually happening, right? And so Suzanne, would you interject on how to handle this respectfully?
This happens almost every meeting, pretty much.
It's okay to vent. It's okay to vent.
Every meeting, and the message I try to tell them is, remember that the doctor is human too. This person is a human being. He or she could be having a bad day, right? He has limited time. Are you delivering the right message? Are you communicating right? And you need to have the conversation with him. And by the way, who is your doctor? And then I would say, yes, we know that doctor. Matter of fact, he could be on our medical referral list. And we know that he has a very large caseload of lupus patient and actually knows lupus and wants to treat them. And so that you know, not all rheumatologists want to treat lupus patients. Okay, we are a lot of work. So I suggest you give them a second chance, and you go back and you be clear on what your needs are. And this has happened to several people in our group, where they have gone back and had that conversation with the doctor. And I had that doctor too that was doing that. And it's like, this doesn't work for me. I've waited 4 to 6 months to see you, and I want to see you. Okay, and I need you to be looking at me when we talk. Okay? So it's about, remember, you're paying the bill. You went to an expert. He's an expert. All right, you need to hear what he has to say. Some doctors, and we've had this conversation, have terrible bedside manners. They are under so much pressure to just produce, get you in, get you out. It's like a factory anymore. Most of the rheumatologists that are on our medical referral list, actually all of them on our medical referral list, treat lupus patients, want to treat lupus patients, right? I will tell you though, when you're visiting your doctor, ask him, how many patients do you see a year with lupus? And if he says 1 or 2, run for the door, right? It's not going to be a fit for you. You want to be in front of that physician that sees a multitude of patients, all right? So give your doctor a second chance. So you know what? don't you have them come talk to our group on that? Okay, and we've done that too, and these relationships got better.
So we don't want to avoid the situation or, disregard them. We want to let them vent in here. That is a good point. How do you know when you're with a good lupus doctor? You know you're with a good lupus doctor if they're open, honest, and responsive. And a question that's okay to ask a physician because you're in charge of your health care, who you're seeing. You're paying for your treatments. Doc, how many lupus patients do you treat? How many do you treat that are like me, that have signs and symptoms like me? Because some rheumatologists are specializing in just arthritis or have a specialty subset that they're really looking at, that maybe they're not commonly seeing lupus patients. And that's okay. But once you've asked the question and you've clarified, you could validate that maybe that physician isn't right for you. So a good thing to point out is, if you're having these experiences, talking with the physician, but simply asking at your next appointment. One, being prepared for your appointment, journaling, writing down the questions that you need addressed when you get there. And then being mindful to just ask, checking in with the physician. Do you treat other lupus patients? So that's great. Thanks, Suzanne. Yes?
Now, in the past, I've mentioned before, and not here, but this was when I was in Kansas, so I want to check for here.
Okay.
I had also mentioned before, encouraging them to contact their doctor and voice their concerns, find out any clarification, stuff like that. Can we do something like that?
This is how you're going to fix that relationship. So checking in with your physician, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, it's okay to bring them to the forefront. So one, are you prepared for your appointment? Are you getting the full 15 minutes that you deserve? And asking that physician exactly that, clarifying it. Getting that feeling validated as to what's going on. Do you have too many patients in between me that you're not able to give me the full time that I need? So helping teach that patient that's with you, kind of venting, giving them solutions on how to fix the situation, right? And then having the facilitator being able to navigate how to spearhead that, giving positive, uplifting ways to fix the situation, not continuing the conversation, right?
But Leslie, I will add too that sometimes it's not a fit.
Right.
And it recently happened to me. I always preach the message that stay in your hospital system with all your doctors. And Leslie, this is Leslie's fault. My family practitioner had retired, so I ventured off to another family practitioner, and she's, you need to be in this hospital system with your rheumatologist. So the rheumatologist gave me a new family practitioner.
Your youngster.
When I went to see him, I almost had a heart attack. He looked like he was 12. And I said, are you a doctor? And I probably offended him. And it was like, oh, young man, you can't possibly be able to take care of me. My history is so vast and so cumbersome. This isn't going to be a fit for us. Nothing personal. I wish you well. And I left because to me, I have so many things wrong with me. He couldn't possibly know all those things right now. And I wasn't comfortable with it. So it's okay. Sometimes it's not a fit.
I'm smiling because this is the first time I've heard this. So anyway, it is true. Sometimes you might meet a physician that isn't your niche. Let's be honest. A lot of our physicians that have been treating lupus patients have been treating for a long time, and they might be looking for their exit strategy and passing the baton on to the new up-and-coming. The great thing to know is who's their predecessor. Who is Dr. Ballou training? Who is Dr. Singer training? Who is Cincinnati Physicians training? Who's their next up-and-coming new physicians coming on board? Yeah. Well, hopefully you can have a conversation and know that they're qualified, right? Just not by their looks alone, but having them know asking them, do you treat other lupus patients?
Ideas that they bring in a fresh look, and they are more open to this.
Right, to new treatment options, to see what's the new cutting edge out there. But if you have a feeling that it's not a fit for you, trust your instinct, trust your own opinion. So getting a second opinion and moving on. But just because they're young or old or have an accent does not make them a bad physician. Doesn't make them a bad physician. So I guess have we kind of clarified how to handle doctor bashing or not feeling comfortable. You might be with a physician that doesn't know lupus patients. And so that's a big red flag. That's where we need to call the Lupus Foundation. And we have a physician's resource guide where Suzanne mentioned we've contacted all of these physicians to say, are you accepting new lupus patients? Would you like to be on our medical advisory board? And they've all said yes. So we have a roadmap for you guys if you ever have that. Have the patient call the office and we'll send it out to them, okay? All right. Yes.
Remember to never to endorse a physician.
Right.
Okay, it's called steering. All right. You want to give them the list. All right. Or if your group wants to share several names, but you never want to say you have to go to this doctor. You have to give them a choice.
That's right. So
the resource guide is a great tool. They have to do the legwork to figure out if the physician is a right fit for them, to see if they get.
Tell them who we see if they ask? Or would that be considered physician steering?
You can tell them who you see, but it's their option. It's their option. That's public information. If someone's asking.
I'm reluctant to do it because of who I am. Okay, but I'm comfortable with it.
If you're willing to share that information, it's not hitting any boundaries, but knowing that they need to fix, just because you have a great relationship with one physician doesn't mean the next person is, right? So it's okay to share. Okay, the last scenario here in our role playing is I feel it's a tough one. It's really a tough one. And I think it takes a whole group effort to really kind of help a severely depressed patient, right? And maybe you're not recognizing that patient at first. Maybe they're kind of the quiet one in the group. And this can be a slippery slope. So in this scenario, we have a severely depressed member in the group that doesn't seem to can't find their head above water. Every suggestion we've given this person is kind of a pitfall. They have a roadblock to every suggestion. Maybe they're not being open and receptive or aren't able to listen. We're not just going to turn them away and say, you know, this isn't a place for you. But how do we handle a depressed person? A lot of the times lupus patients have seen mental health specialists, right? And it's okay to look to those people. They're a part of the healthcare system. So knowing who to turn to or how to handle it. Suzanne, how would we handle someone who is severely depressed in group?
Well, since I suffer from depression and I've traveled that journey many times and recognized that there's peaks and valleys, I think I'm a little bit more skilled to identify a depressed person versus a sad person. And know that we are not mental health professionals. And know that we cannot help everybody. You have to be very careful here because I would most likely pull that person aside and make a recommendation for a mental health professional. Now, this is huge right now, and I'm a very strong advocate for mental health because I did suffer, and still I'm on medications for depression. And it can be a very dark place, dangerous place to go to, and we are not equipped to help them. But you want to know, you know, pretty much at every other one of our groups, there's someone sitting there crying and that's overwhelmed. All right, and we call Bev the hugger, and she runs up with the Kleenex and starts
The
hugging.
designated hugger in the group.
She's the designated hugger. And I think the most valuable asset we offer is that we all want to hug the person to let them know that they're cared for and that someone cares. But at the end, most likely, I would pull them aside and recommend that they see a mental health professional because we can't help them here. But I would also say to my group, which I have, because some of you people come to my group, would share with them that I've been there, done that, and it was a medical health professional that gave me back my life. Okay. You will meet much resistance when you tell someone that you should seek medical help. You're going to get resistance because they're going to think you think they're crazy. But if you've walked in their shoes, it projects itself as a different vision for them. It's like, well, she did it, I can do it too.
So we're giving empathy. We're not feeling sorry for the person. We're giving them empathy to know that there's help out there. So there's two things that Suzanne said there. is there's a difference between being sad and being depressed. It's pretty common for someone to break down, especially at their first group, of having the flood of emotions come, sharing their story because they finally found a group that knows them, that understands them. So maybe they shed some tears. So I don't know if we had the tissues in these. One of the health fair giveaways is little tissues. I'd suggest, yay, bringing some tissues with you, right? And offering that tissue and showing them your support. It's okay to cry in this group. But one thing's for sure here is you're coming in a little bit blue. We're hoping this group will uplift you, and you're leaving here a little bit uplifted. So that's a big portion of it. And then one more caveat to that is handling a depressed person privately and pulling them to the side and giving them the empathy is the route you want to go, because it can go down a slippery slope of feeling accused or feeling resistant to mental health. For whatever reason, people think psychiatry, psychology is all, you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're crazy. We can all benefit from mental health. And so taking that person aside and saying, I hear what you're saying and I feel for you. And you know, I've had those feelings too, of feeling not knowing where to turn to or nothing is helping me. And sometimes I feel helpless. But if you can reach out to a mental health provider, you will be so much further along in your journey. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know in my group I had a lady, it was a whole family. It was the mom, 2 sisters, and the husband. And one of the sisters was depressed, and you would not realize it. You would not realize it at all. And then the next day, I got a phone call where she had committed suicide. You know, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you know, why didn't I notice this? You know, they can hide very well their feelings. And her sister was like, I knew she was depressed. I said, why didn't you say something? So we could have helped her, you know, and I felt really bad for a long time because I didn't catch how depressed that she was. You know, and she was new to the group. She came about 6 months, and she always was happy-go-lucky, I thought, you know.
You just never really know. Some of the funniest comedians out there commit suicide, and you don't know how depressed they are on the inside. So
people with depression looking suicide to hide it by being smiling and happy.
All the time she was so pleasant. And then I'm like, oh my God.
So there really is no way to know. Don't hold that in internally and feel that there was anything you could have altered or known about. But that is something we take very seriously. So in our office, we have suicide. We have a red folder that talks about how to handle a suicide call. If someone's saying they feel like hurting themselves, that's a red flag right there that we should take seriously, and pointing it out. You know, these aren't normal thoughts to feel like you want to die or harm yourself. You really need to seek medical professional help. This group here is not the place to help you because we're not professional counselors. We need to call someone to seek professional help for you, and that's the way to have that conversation. Yes?
That policy is in their book.
Good.
I don't know if
Yeah,
she's
there's
maybe going
suicide
over.
prevention policies and a policy.
Yeah.
So there is the blurb on how we handle that. So the suicide prevention line is there, and we have how to handle it over the phone and in person.
Yeah, especially if you had like an active threat or something you feel like could be a situation like maybe you were in, something along those lines. There's a whole set of guidelines. And the other thing just off the top of my head that I was thinking is it might be good to start any support group with a list of local resources. So maybe, that's the first thing you share is the local hotline for suicide help or depression screening or whatever the case is. It might be just good.
So along with the disclaimer.
For everyone. Yeah, we're not professionals, but here's a list of professionals in your area that you can reach out to that can give you support in this area.
So in our resource tool, I just saw that was up on the website. That should be a listed service that's listed on our website. So an easy tool to pull up on is the patient provider tools, the toolkit. So if you want to bring that to group, you have that resource. Okay, great. So depression is pretty common within the group. So being able to identify someone that's sad and severely depressed, these are ways to handle it. And I just want to let you know, you're not going to be on your game 100% all the time, right? And hopefully they come back and you're building that relationship. It takes time. Yvonne was saying it takes time to build that culture. It takes time to build that group. So encouraging them to come back and saying, I want to see you at group again. I hope this is an uplifting place where you can share and feel supported. Come back and let's keep talking about it. And if they keep coming back with that same depressive attitude, that might be the cue that you're looking for. You know, maybe you should seek a little bit more help. How's it going? How's it going type of thing. So I guess my point is you're not going to know the right thing to say all the time, and that's okay. Just try your best to be empathetic, listen, and following the cues, okay? Takes time and practice. All right, so my role play was a little bit different. I was going to pick on all these guys, but I looked at their face, and they're all like, what are you making us do? And I didn't have it within me to pick on them. Amber was like, oh, gosh, am I next up? Do I have to be the acting? I put you on the spot before, so I got you this time. So, okay, just a little bit, just a few more minutes here. Something that I want everyone to do is, you know, how do we self-identify? Yvonne was talking about this very briefly, which I was kind of excited about that. You know, what are we doing to help one another? How are we creating the sense of community? How do we know how to help someone? When you can identify your own beliefs, know what your own thoughts are going on in there, you're able to help other people. I am a big person on meditation and prayer. Prayer really helps me. Maybe it doesn't help you, but it helps me. I say a prayer every time I come to speak in front of people. I ask God to help me empower people to recognize they have the power to help other people. And Lord, use me to help these people help other people. And that's always what I say to myself. That doesn't necessarily have to be your thing. Maybe it is just taking some time to be silent and meditate. And so I just want to take a few minutes. If you guys don't fall asleep on me, okay? Close your eyes and just listen to your inner voice. Be silent and meditate. If you need a little bit of help, I like envisioning white light coming from the top of my head and scanning over my body. And I want you to listen to your thoughts. Listen to the thoughts that are coming on. And so I'm going to time you for just a few minutes if you could do that. And I'll stop talking now. I want you guys to start bringing your thought back to this room in just a few minutes, okay? Seconds. Start bringing your thoughts back here. So this little bit of meditation is something that we should all try to do for a longer period of time for the sake of getting through this recording, because I didn't know we were recording me either today, so surprise. Mindful meditation is good for the body, just to check in with yourself. And so just think to yourself and maybe jot down a few notes, and we should all have paper and pen. But what is that inner critic saying in your head? You know, are you your best cheerleader? Or are you your worst enemy? Is it positive thoughts in there? Is it negative thoughts, or is it uplifting? Are you criticizing the things that you need to do? Oh man, I didn't put those dishes away before I left the house. Oh man, I left the baby crying with my husband. I hope they're okay. You know, what are those thoughts that are coming about? You know, is it the manager side of you? We need to get all of these things done at the office, or the office is all going to fall apart, right? The protector. Are you protecting your body? Are you protecting your thoughts? Are you protecting your mind? I'm going to be honest with you. I am a negative self-talker, but I'm mindful of it. And when the thoughts in my head are really mean, I would never talk to my friend or my best friend or anyone in my life the way that I sometimes talk to myself. And I physically have to say, cancel, cancel, delete, delete. That thought has no business being in my head. And if you see on our computer, I sometimes joke with Adrian and we say, you are beautiful, you are kind. And I leave her little messages and stuff like that just because I want, it says, I know it does, I saw it there. I was like, it's still there. You are smart, you are beautiful, and you are kind. And it's just silly stuff, and we do other little silly stuff to each other, but just little reminders of how to positive self-talk. It's a trained, you have to train yourself sometimes to think that way. So just in your own mindset, this could be a whole seminar on your inner thoughts and how to overcome what negative self-talk. But if you know where you're coming from and you understand your belief systems, maybe you're able to understand and empathize with another person who's able to verbalize their negative self-talk, right? So if you can identify and find a little bit of yourself in each person, you could be able better to help them. Anyone else a negative talker to themselves? Sometimes you got to give yourself a pat on the back sometimes, right? Negative thoughts creep in there. But what do we do to correct those things? Are we still continuing to beat ourselves up? Is there anything that we could do to fix those negative self-talks?
Don't meditate.
Don't listen to the voice inside your head.
You were train yourself with that behavior growing up. So
It was learned. It was taught.
one, you have to recognize first that you have it. Second, then you have to practice not practicing that anymore. So you just have to change how you're thinking and speaking about yourself. You have to catch when you do that.
That's exactly it. So I am aware of that with myself. And now that I'm aware of it, I can stop it. Our bodies are wired to do certain things. Why we do things we don't know. But for me, just saying cancel, cancel, delete, delete, put that in the trash can because it doesn't have any part of me. It doesn't have to be a part of me. And I throw it away. Go ahead, Brenda.
Suzanne will probably remember this. It's been at least 15, 20 years ago. We went to a seminar and a psychologist came out and brought this animated puppy dog. Do you remember that? He was running all around and he was trying to talk to us about being mindfulness wasn't the buzzword back then. It was just, being how to meditate and think positive. And said, well, would you let this dog, this new puppy, run around your house without any care? Why would you let your mind do that?
Just run wild on you.
Don't let your mind run wild.
So we have the ability to control our thoughts. It's us needing to be mindful of what it is saying. So this could be a whole seminar in on itself, but just recognizing how you speak to yourself, how you're going to handle that. And I was going to have you share it with your table, but we're already sharing it with our own groups. Taking some time, maybe even after your group, of assessing how everything went and just thinking, how can I be a better facilitator? Was there a topic or conversation that maybe I could have handled a little bit better or just handled it in a different way? And kind of being mindful of how to hone in on your skills and build your skills. So the best that you know yourself is how you're going to be able to help others. Your own biases or prejudice that you know about you know where to draw the line. Ivanka said it. We all have our own sense of biasm, right? There's some things that are just more favorable. So now that we know that about ourselves, we're able to stop it and kind of put that in our own parking lot and it doesn't have room to be there. Just because I'm a negative self-talker doesn't mean I'm going to introduce that to you guys. It just stays in the trash can in my parking lot. So, self-identify. Sure.
So I'm a control freak.
Really?
Yeah. But I have a reason why I'm a control freak. Okay? I have this mean identical twin. And
negative self. It's okay. She knows she is, so it's really okay.
She connects to it. And my mean twin. So this is deep now. This is going to be deep. My mean twin was always controlling me. Okay, always. Susie this, Susie do this, and Susie, you got to do this, Susie, and Susie, no, Susie. And this dummy went along with my tail wagging, all right? And after years of psychotherapy, what I learned was I thought she was controlling me. I let her control me, so I was in control, all right? There is something in my office, and I would hope that my staff would know what this is, because I use it every day.
Seek first to understand, to be understood.
So there's a big sign above my desk, and I have to look at it constantly because I am a control freak. And one thing that we are all sitting here believe is we believe we're right on a lot of things, okay? And I believe I'm right on a lot of things. And Stephen Covey said, one of the 7 habits of highly effective people is seek first to understand, then to be understood, then you look for the win-win. There should be no win-lose, right? Now that is very deep, but I want you to think about it because I use it in every aspect. And really, this is really about self-identity too, and communication. We believe what we believe, and that has been molded through the years, and we believe we're right. And then you have all these other people come into your life, and you're trying to communicate with them. And it took me years. It was frustrating. So when I read Stephen Covey, I looked at it and thought, I'm not going to find the win-win. I just want to win, all right? But then I would never get anything done, and I'd be a miserable person. So if you understood why Kim or Aletha acts the way they do, all right? If you get
or anyone acts the way
or anyone specifically, then you have to look for the win-win. And so use it and use it wisely. I think it's a gift to really understand the concept. And with being a support group leader or a facilitator, it will take you a long way.
So these are just little tools and tips and tricks to help you hone in on these things. We have only hit the surface of it. We could spend a whole weekend on mindful meditation. We really could. And identifying self and building these skills. So hopefully, you know, that one quote has so much to offer. That one quote could be this whole discussion right now. But the one thing I want to point out is, you know, as you're building your groups, is you do have a team. Right now, recognize we are the team. We're all the superheroes. We did a program on that, 2 years ago, that we have the ability, the power to make change, right? And when you're stuck in a tough place, you can always reach out to the office, talk to our in-house patient navigators, talk to any of us on how to troubleshoot. So just so you know, if you're out in the community and you're feeling alone, you haven't developed your co-facilitator, really identify that person. Maybe even when they're walking in, the first person that comes to your group, hey, do you want to help me co-facilitate tonight? And have them do the sign-in sheets. And have them be that kind of confidant that you can turn to and say, hey, Tisa, how would we handle this situation? You know, and come up and have that conversation. Let's us two be the positive people in this group tonight. You know, maybe Tisa will stop coming early then. But, you know, identifying who that co-person is and knowing that it's not just all on you, that you have a team of people in the office and in the group to help one another. We do have, I wanted to be sure that we printed out the new lupus literature. Hopefully that made it into the binder. I think, did you print? I didn't see what was in the binder. The living with...
Binders up there.
Oh, okay. That's okay. The living with lupus.
I don't think those are in there. The new things that came from National. Suzanne, do you know if those are in there? I don't
The
think
sheets?
Yeah.
They're all online in the toolkit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then that's even better because then you always have access to it and you don't have to have save a tree. You could save a tree. But so those resources are made available to you, and if you ever, your participants in the group want a package, they can always call the office and receive an inquiry package. We can send it out to them. All right, so what's next on the agenda? That is it for me for facilitator training. I want to emphasize really honing in on the manual and reading it, developing your own skills. This is a constant journey of what it means for you to be a facilitator. I will tell you, it can be very rewarding. You know, if you have a soul that wants to help other people, this is the right place for you. We are supporting one another, and it's all about what you make of it. One thing I wanted to point out, and this is the last point, is, and Suzanne hits upon this, why are some patients able to handle difficult situations better than others? What is their inner voice that someone has but maybe someone else doesn't?
It could be their upbringing. It doesn't necessarily mean that they handle it better. Some people internalize and aren't able to verbalize what they're going through. So you could look at me and say, oh, there's nothing wrong with her, but I don't want to share. Because I've been taught in my culture that don't tell no business outside this house.
So it's being willing to accept and make the change yourself and knowing that about yourself. So one thing is some patients have the ability to be resilient. I think is the word Suzanne uses. Mine, I'm just a pain in the butt, and I'm going to keep working it until I get it right. You know, some people lack that drive to want to better themselves. There's so many people that want to be at this seminar, but yet when we make the call, they didn't make the appointment today. There was a few people, but you guys are here to get the information. So now we're one step further. Do we have the resilience of what it takes to help those people understand that they have the tools to better themselves? So what is it that is with resilience that some patients have that can keep trucking forward, that can be having new signs and symptoms happen but can find a way around it, find the new pathway to live better? And those are the things that we're having to empower patients with. So think about that when you join for group. You know, do they have the resilience within them, or are they looking to hone those skills and build